Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to this. I think it's going to be quite an interesting discussion. I'll just jiggle you around a little bit there. And it's all about the spirit realm and connecting to it and what it is and what it feels like and how we can connect to it. So I do think it's going to be quite interesting, so please do stick around because it kind of delves into a little bit of my journey, of where I kind of began and what I started experiencing quite early on during my spiritual awakening to where I am now, and how my experiences have changed so much over these past, well, even just the past few years, but even going back to when it all really began, maybe 15 years ago roughly, when my kind of awakening started going on. There was a lot of strange things that were happening. But you know, when we talk about the ethereal realm or the spirit world or all these other ways we can describe it, a lot of people kind of like just dismiss it and wishy-washy it and say that it's a load of hocus pocus. Well, hey, that's a good joke. Or there are those people that are kind of like on the fence and they're like, well, they're a bit skeptical, but if they see something or are aware of anything, then they'll believe it. And then there's others that are just hardcore believers, and some hardcore believers are also skeptical as well. So they have this kind of like nice balance where they need it to be kind of evidential, where it will prove itself, which is I think what a lot of us really want. We all want that, and it also depends on the person that is, I suppose, communicating or receiving the information, and how precise they are and how they're good at reading the signs and symbols that they're given. And so let's go into that a little bit. Let's go back to where it all kind of like started for me, because I've always been kind of interested in the paranormal, I suppose, is how it kind of began. I used to watch a lot of paranormal programs and things. And then as I became more, I started to step away from that a little bit, and I became more kind of in tune with myself and my own journey and what I needed to go through and what I was experiencing and what I was healing from. And many of you that follow the channel and are subscribers, you will be aware of my spiritual awakening journey and what happened to me. But going over it briefly in this video, there was a time where there was kind of lots of things that were happening around the home, and I was hearing things and I was aware of things. I was feeling things around me that I couldn't really readily explain, but I just had a feeling and I just knew there was something there, but it wasn't anything kind of tangible where you could like point to it and say, well, it's there or it's there. There was nothing like that. And even when I heard kind of like the voices to me, when I first started hearing them, they're not as clear now actually as what they used to be. But when I first started hearing them, they were like really, really clear, but also distant. It's a real strange way to describe it. But the first time I really heard the voices was when I heard mine and my brother's name called. When I was in the bedroom, I was on my own. I thought I was going through the spiritual awakening. I thought I was going like a little bit kind of crazy, really, going a bit nuts because all this stuff was happening. My TV that I had at the time in the bedroom, a little portable one, decided to turn itself on and it kind of like woke me up, and I thought, oh, I must have rolled over onto the control and turned the TV on. But then I realised the control was on the bedside unit, so I thought, well, that's strange, I couldn't have done it. So I just knocked the TV back off and put the TV remote back on the bedside unit, put my head back down, tried to get back to sleep. And these things tend to happen always around about either between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. So we kind of like know what those times mean. If you're not aware of those times, then that's usually when a lot of spiritual activity happens, because you're more receptive to it. The state that you're in, your theta state, or that vibrational frequency that you've met, is more in tune and in alignment with the spiritual realm. So all this stuff was happening, and then the second time it happened with the TV turning itself on, and then that's when I heard my name and my brother's name called, and it sounded like it was outside of the house but also inside. It was a real strange way of kind of being able to kind of describe it, but like I say, it wasn't tangible. I couldn't say exactly where it was or where I heard it from. I was just aware of it. So the skeptics will say, oh, well, you just woke up, you could have just been hearing things, you might have been dreaming something. But no, I was kind of like fully awake, because when the TV turned itself on, it turned itself on and it was full blast. So it really kind of shook me up a little bit. So that's a little bit about how kind of things started for me, when I started to be more, I suppose, openly aware that there was something else. And then as the years passed by, I did have a little dog at the time, and sadly she passed away. And then I started experiencing movement around the house of what I could only really describe as being the dog. And again, the skeptics will say, well, you're missing the dog, and you'll create all these things in your mind. But again, it was things that really that did actually happen, that I could feel. But again, it wasn't tangible. I couldn't say exactly where it was. And but she was a little Staffordshire Bull Terrier, so she was quite sturdy. She was quite a heavy dog, and she used to like to jump on the bed next to me. And many a time when all this stuff was happening, I would feel this lump land on the bed, and I would feel the bed move as though she just jumped on the bed. The weight of the dog was there, and that happened it happened nearly every night for about a week and a half, 2 weeks nearly. And then it kind of just tailed off and stopped. But I do believe that she was with me. She was comforting me, because she obviously knew that I was going through something and I needed some sort of, I suppose, comfort. So anyway, a few years later, started doing the meditation, going down that road, getting myself into more, I suppose, more clear-minded, getting myself more balanced. My energy was more balanced. And a few years later, I discovered the Reiki and what have you. And things really started to escalate once I'd done the meditation, but then also the Reiki. After I'd had a few sessions of Reiki myself, I was starting to kind of see colours, and I was being aware of visions, and I could see faces, and I wasn't really sure of what they were, but this was all when my eyes were closed. So it wasn't things that I was seeing physically within the room where I could point at them and say, oh, they're over there, or oh, they're over there. It was just things that I was seeing within my head, very subtle impressions. But I was, even though my eyes were closed, I was aware of where they would be within the room. It was really weird, because to me they were just kind of there, but I knew that they were either over there or over there. It was a strange connection, but it was just feeling. It's a very much of a clairsentient but also a claircognizant thing as well, because I just kind of knew that they were over there, and that's who it was, and just these random and weird feelings. And many of us that are on this kind of spiritual path might experience this, but we'll also have our own way of, I suppose, connecting and experiencing. We're all, I say this every time, and you're probably sick of me saying it, but we are all individual and we are all unique as physical beings. But in spirit, we're all the same. The spirit, the essence is the same thing. It's all this energy that resides within us and around us, and how it's all connected between us all. So the reason why it's different for people to connect on different frequencies and different levels is because of the level of their physicality, their level of their ego, the level of where they're at on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a physical and spiritual level. Are they harmonious in that level, or are they kind of all over the place? If they're all over the place, then the frequency is going to be up and down, and spirit can't really kind of tune into that, and you can't tune into it because you're all over the place. So you need to find, it's about finding this kind of vibrational balance where you can tune into that frequency, and then you'll start finding your own little way of what you feel. what you may experience. So you may have what one of your abilities might be stronger than the other. So your clairaudience may be stronger than your clairvoyance. Your clairvoyance may be stronger than your clairsentience or whatever. So you might get more visuals than anything. And a lot of mediums use the third eye and have more visuals, and that's how their guides and spirit communicate with them, because they're aware of how they can communicate. But as the years have gone by, for me personally, it has, in some levels, it's kind of like tailed off a little bit, and it has got a little bit weaker. Not weaker, but it has subsided a little bit, because I think spirit is kind of aware and knows that I'm more aware of them and the energy, so they don't need to be kind of like as full on with me. So I can feel when someone's around. I can feel when there's energy around me. I just have this sense, so for me, I'll get the goosebumps. For a lot of people, they will get that. I also get the tingles when I'm on. If I give someone information that I think, oh, and I just get this feeling that I need to pass this information on to them. This happened to me yesterday, where someone told me something about somebody, and I just had this feeling that the reason why they were doing something was because of, I don't want to talk about details because it's quite personal to that person, but what I was feeling was, this is why they're doing that. This is why that behaviour is picked up, and when I explained it to my friend, that person, they said, "That's really weird. You've made me think about something else now," and that's kind of like banged the nail on the head, like as to say, that's exactly what's happening. And it wasn't really me. I suppose in essence, it was me that felt it and passed the information on. But the way the information sometimes comes through is it's almost like a channeled thought form, but it isn't kind of like your own thought. It just kind of like quickly comes in quite randomly. And for me, especially with the clairaudience, which it's not as powerful as what it was, so I have to really kind of like listen and tune in to what messages are coming in, because they are, like I said, they can be quite thick and fast, and once they've been and gone, that's it. I have no memory of them really. They just come and they go, and it's that fast. Some people will retain a little bit of that information, but usually we don't usually hang on to it, because it can be draining for us, and spirit knows this as well. So it can be draining for us to be harnessing and holding on to a lot of this information. It can kind of bring you down a little bit physically, and it can take time. So that's why you need time to kind of recover when you're working through these frequencies, maybe for a few hours a day or whatever, or maybe just a couple of hours a day. You need time, maybe a few days, to just chill out, just zone out, because it can be overwhelming, especially if you're not used to it. So as the years have gone by, it really has, for me, it's kind of fine-tuned a lot, and I only kind of receive, like before, many years ago, it used to be constant, just like people, faces, thoughts. It would just be there all the time. But now I've kind of like trained myself into a way of being where I'm either receptive to it or I'm not. So that's kind of all part of how you kind of like train yourself, and you just become more aware of yourself. And sometimes I can't control it, and it does just keep going. It just keeps coming in. But that's when I ask, and I speak to them, or I speak to my higher self or my team, and I'll just say, look, this is my time now. These are my boundaries. I need to just have this downtime for me. So they're as understanding about you are, because they've been people as well, and they know exactly what it can feel like for us. So that's why when you give them this information, they're fine. Okay, that's fine, and they will step back and they will help you to calm back down again. Because when there's a lot of information comes through, It can also make you feel quite anxious. It can make you feel like kind of uneasy. You might get strange arrhythmia in the heart. It might start beating slightly out of order, or it might start beating too fast. Especially even if somebody, say, with the energies of, say, that might have had a heart attack or might have had like a stroke, sometimes they can impress that quickly on you so that you're aware of it, and then they'll take it off, so it's not with you for too long. But the physical body as well, when it feels it, it can make you feel anxious. It can make you feel out of sorts. So, but there are many different ways of how we can interact and we can connect with it, with this energy. And this energy, this consciousness, is all around us. It's there all the time, to be tapped into. But you don't need to always be tapping into it, because again, that's not what the physical life is about. Spirit is there to kind of aid, guide, and assist us, but it's not there to be tangible, like a physical person to always be in communication with, because they have their work to do in spirit as well. So even though they're on a different frequency and they might not be here physically, they're doing what they need to do in their realm, wherever they are. So they've also got healing to do where they are. They might be doing healing for you from a different location. They may be doing some sort of ancestral healing, bringing family ties back together, cutting cords that aren't required. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we just aren't aware of. We just don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening. So for the people that are very analytical and need hard evidence, they need hard facts, for them it's going to be hard to kind of comprehend and get their head around it. For those that are a little bit softer and a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more aware, maybe a little bit more empathic, then they can tune into that a little bit easier. For people that are even more open, then yeah, that will be just kind of like their everyday life. For me, I suppose I'm kind of somewhere in between. I'm not kind of always looking for spirit to give me answers, but then I'm also not overly analytical. I don't think about it. I don't try and work it out. I'm just aware that they're always around and they're always assisting, and they will assist me in some way if I need it. Also, if usually what tends to happen for a lot of people is to get that validation, to bring that element of tangibility into the physical realm. This is why people start to experience like synchronicities and repeating numbers and patterns. And when they think about somebody or they hear a song that reminds them of somebody, that is somebody that is in spirit, that is trying to connect, that is around, And I think as well, the analytical mind, a lot of people try to think of the spirit realm as like this other place, which kind of it is, but it isn't as well. It's kind of like it's there all the time. It's always around us. It's just our physical body and our physical reality. We're not always openly aware of everything that is around us. And I know a few people have said to us before, if we were open to seeing everything that is around us, all the good, all the bad, all in between, it would probably drive us absolutely mad, because there is so much that is happening, that is around us, that we don't need to always be aware of in the physical life. So because of that level of, I suppose, not being tangible, not being able to point at it, it can be difficult. But it's the same for when if I ever receive information or just visions or sounds or feelings, I just have to write it down. I have to make a note of it, because there will be something within that will mean something to either me, the way I work the message out, and then give it to whoever it may be, the other person, the other individual. But again, I really have to be in that zone to always be able to receive some sort of information. But again, we don't always need to get information. We don't always need validation, especially in healing sessions. Usually healing sessions is just about the healing, but every now and again it's nice to have a message of validation from the universe saying, right, well, this is where you're at, this is what is potentially going to be happening, this is going to be happening over the next few months, there's the information. And then when you start to see it all unfold, it's just like, wow, that's just like amazing information to get from that. So I mean, how do we get there? How do we connect to that? How do we connect to that information? Again, it's individual to the person, and it can be one of them things where, right, okay, well, especially because of TV shows us certain things, like, you'll watch a program and you'll see that, oh, well, they see that or they see that, so then the person that's wanting to do it will start to want to experience it in that way, where in actual fact it may be totally different. It may be a lot more subtle. It might be less kind of in your face of how to connect to it. But the key to it for me, of how it all really began, was through the art of meditation, and then tuning in to that meditation, and also bringing crystals into the meditation as well really kind of enhanced things a little bit as well, really helped to deepen that connection. But again, for you, it's going to be totally individual, totally different for you. It may be a case where you just need to go and walk in nature and things will just happen. You'll start to receive information. You don't know where the information's coming from, but all of a sudden these almost thought forms start flooding in, and that can be part of it. That can be the activation of the messages. The other part about it could be, for me sometimes, like for me as well, it's walking in nature. I start to receive stuff. Even if I'm doing like kind of housework, especially like the grounding everyday stuff, your mundane activities, walking the dogs, doing the housework, doing the dishes, hanging the washing up, whatever it might be. For me as well, that's something where a lot of this information can come through. Just a random couple of words might pop in, and then it'll just be like a continuous kind of flow of just like, oh right, okay, yeah, and then I'll start receiving information. And then once the information's been, it's absorbed, my soul's recognized it, I kind of forget what the hell it was really that was coming in at the time. So it is quite thick and fast, but I just recognize it. My soul knows what it means. And if it's something that resonates, that I feel people need to be aware of, then I will share it on here, or I'll make a post about it. But other than that, that's kind of how it is for me. It's really, really quite subtle. It's just a gentle vibrational feeling of, it's something that I really can't describe where it comes from within my body. It's almost like it's every part of me will feel it and be aware of it, and then it's down to me to kind of discern, see, understand and feel what it feels to me, and then trying to pass it on into a message that could be understood. It really is extremely subtle, so it's not like when you see in the films where people are being thrown around a room or whatever. When you're receiving this sort of loving information, it's not like that. That's more like kind of the heavier, darker stuff. We're not really on about that. So yeah, that's kind of like how it is for me and how it works for me. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of insight. And again, it's being in that, for me, it's being in that right vibrational state, which will be the same for anyone, I suppose. Some people will just be aware with it and just be able to tap quite quickly. Others need to take time and need to work at it. And yeah, it's just having this understanding and this knowing that it's always around, this consciousness. It's just an energy that just lives on, and it's always there in some form or another to just be able to kind of tune into. So I hope that gives you a little few ideas, a little few thoughts of how I feel it, and how I kind of try to pass messages on, but also maybe a few ideas for you of how you may be able to feel it as well. It really is a lot less in your face than what a lot of TV and media tries to portray. It's for me, it's a lot gentler. It really is. But again, that's probably as well down to my spirit team that allow that to be gentle, that don't want it to be kind of overly intrusive. I suppose the most powerful thing that I've ever felt was when my first kind of spirit guide connected to me that I was aware of. That was the Hyokan, the Native American Hyokan. And for days and days I was hearing this word, and I didn't know what it meant, and it was Hyoka, and I just didn't have a clue. So I just spoke to them and I just said, look, if this is you, if you want to connect, if you're a guide of mine, if you want to bring something into my reality, then can you show me in the 3D, in my life, who you are, what you are, so I can be aware of you. Then the next day I put on my YouTube feed and there's a video about Hyoka. First video on my YouTube feed, so I watched it, and then I just said, so is this you? And I got this kind of like tingles and shiver all down me. I was like, right, okay. And then I started getting the next word, which was the name. The name kept repeating over and over again. So I said, is this your name? Tingles and shivers all over. And then I said, well, can I feel your energy? And the energy just came sort of like into the front of me, to my solar plexus. It just went up my body, back down, and just an overwhelming feeling of absolute love, joy, bliss, nirvana. It was just so peaceful. It was so beautiful. It almost brought me to tears, but I was also extremely happy and peaceful as well. So it was a real powerful thing that I went through, that I experienced. And that's probably one of the most powerful experiences that I've had, was connecting with that particular guide. So there we go. There's a little bit of more information for you. So I hope you enjoyed. Hope it gives you a little bit of food for thought, a little bit of my world at this end, I suppose. Tell me about what you experience. You know, if you've experienced anything, what you see, colours, feelings, vibrations, all the wonderful stuff that Spirit likes to show us, then, you know, comment below, let us know. This is a community for everybody that's on this spiritual journey, that is awakening and connecting deeper to their connection to God, their connection to Source. It really is, as we all awaken one by one, to bring light to the collective, for harmony, for love, for peace, and just to bring joy to the world. So I hope you enjoyed. Much love to you all. Take care of yourselves. Namaste. Bye for now.